Yeah.
Maybe the solution to Drickus's crazy weird style is the unkillable samurai.
You want to talk about the goofiest looking fight on earth?
That.
That's insane.
All right, welcome to another episode of Two Fight Fans, where we talk about all things in combat sports. I'm one fight fan, Collin.
And I'm the other Stuart.
All right, there is no card this weekend.
Nothing. Whole bunch of nothing.
Yeah.
Well, that's not true. Tomorrow, probably when this podcast comes out, there will be a Naoya Inoue fight.
That's true.
That's true. Now, here's the thing, Collin. How pumped are you for this fight? Because it's just kind of Inoue against other man.
Yes, a late sub-in. I'm excited to see Inoue, but at the same time, it's probably going to be more of the same thing that we've seen. You know, just another highlight win for him.
Yeah. It's a little Islam Makhachev, Renato Moicano, where you go, I'm glad I get to see Inoue, but I wish I would see him against someone with more prestige and skill.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't think this fight is one of those that are part of his sponsorship with Riyadh season.
Well, because I think everything to do with Riyadh has to be done in Riyadh now.
Yeah. Well, I think because this one, it's still in Japan, and it was announced before his sponsorship deal was announced. So,
got it. All right. Well, so we can look forward to that. I mean, it's something to watch, and we love Inoue, especially Collin. So
I do.
It's not bad. Yeah. But we talked for a long time about the specifics of the fights at UFC 311, and not a lot about all the fluffery that was going on during UFC 311. So let's knock off a couple of these. Let's get your opinion on it.
Okay.
They announced the main and co-main for UFC 313.
Yes.
This will have 2 5-round fights, although the second one I believe is not for a title. So your main event is not Yuri. What am I saying? Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev.
Yep.
How do we feel about that fight, Collin?
I feel great about it. I do have one question or concern about this, because there was some concerns that maybe Ankalaev wouldn't take the fight or would not be ready, because this is right during Ramadan, isn't it?
Ooh, I don't know. I'm not always up to date on when Ramadan starts or ends. So let's look. Ramadan in 2025. Oh, let's see what Sergeant Google says. February 28th to Saturday, March 29th. I believe it is in the middle. Yeah, so that's the back end of March.
Yeah.
Ooh, interesting. Wow, that's very not ideal.
Yeah, that is not ideal for Ankalaev.
Ooh, do you think the UFC did that shit on purpose and was like, this is your only way you're going to get a title shot, Magomed? This is the only way. You have to fight during Ramadan. Otherwise, it's not happening.
I don't know. I mean, it is one of those things where it's like, when it was first announced that Alex Pereira might be fighting Ankalaev and it might be at the start of the year, people were saying that, like, oh, if he chooses to fight at this time, or Alex Pereira was saying he would be ready to fight around March. People were saying, like, oh, you're like picking and choosing when to fight, and like if you go against Ankalaev, you have a distinct advantage because he'll be fasting during Ramadan. You're cheating, blah blah blah. So it's like, I don't know, and it does seem a little like, hey, couldn't you do this in February or after Ramadan? But then again, if he had to wait till after Ramadan, it probably wouldn't be until like end of April, May. So he had like a full additional time afterwards to recover. So they probably, like you said, the UFC has their whole programming schedule. They probably didn't want that time. But if it wasn't Ankalaev, who the hell would Alex Pereira fight, at 313?
Yeah. And actually looking at this, so it starts on February 28th, right? This
Yeah.
fight is actually on March 8th.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
only 8 days difference. And you're fasting, you're probably cutting down to 205. So, mm, right, they're probably training right now. The bulk of the really hard, intense training is happening now.
Yeah.
Um,
Like they've started camp. So
yeah, so maybe I don't know. It's still kind of weird that the UFC would. Why not just make this fight, yeah, for the February card,
yeah.
312, and then put Sean Strickland and Drickus at 313. Who knows? Who's to say? But a good fight, and it's kind of
Yeah.
it's the last one we really need for Pereira at
Yeah.
205.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
speaking of 205, diverting a bit, one of the great things about the state of California is their athletic commission not only releases the actual purses so that
Mhm.
we can get a peek into what the fighters make, but it also releases weigh-ins the day of to see how much weight people have put back on. Did
Oh.
you peek any of this?
No, I didn't even know that they did that. I didn't even know that they weighed in the day of.
Yeah, so I think it's only in California, and then they do release the weights. So Hanata Moicano went from 155 to 182.
Holy shit.
And Islam Makhachev was up at 178. So they each put on 15% plus of their body weight.
Yeah.
Umar Nurmagomedov went from 135 to 157, and Merab Dvalishvili went from 134 to 157.
Jesus.
Yeah. Now, here's the interesting thing. Jamal Hill went from 205.5 to 222. I'm rounding a little bit. It's 221.8, but we'll just say 222.
Okay. Okay.
Yuri Prochazka went from 204.5 to 208, which
Huh.
is 3 pounds. Like, just basically maybe he had a little bit more water in his belly, or he hadn't taken a poop yet. Like, he,
Wait, so Yuri doesn't really cut weight?
at all. It looks like he just
That's
basically weighs 205, and then, maybe he just skips a meal to make the weight.
this is just making me like Yuri more. Like
I know. It's kind of crazy. And I
because
want to go
he
ahead.
also looks big. Like
Huge.
he
Yeah.
looks like he looked the same, if not like a little bit bigger than Jamal Hill, like when they were fighting. I mean, but he was 20 pounds lighter. Like that's wild to me.
Yeah. Shit is wild. It doesn't make sense. I don't get it. And it also, after he lost the second time to Powhatan, he had said, maybe I'll go down to 185. And I thought, no
That's
fucking way.
right. That's
You're gonna
right.
it's gonna be the most brutal weight cut on you. And the one thing you have, which is insane durability, is gonna be sapped. But it turns out he walks around less than the weight Robert Whitaker walks around at. About the same weight as Israel Adesanya. Less than Dricus Du Plessis' weight. So, you know what? Might be kind of cool to see Yuri at 185.
Yeah, we
Might be
might,
kinda neat. Yeah.
maybe the solution to Dricus's crazy weird style is the
Oh.
unkillable samurai.
You want to talk about the goofiest looking fight on earth?
That
That's insane.
Dude,
Actually,
I want it. I need it now.
yeah,
That's
we need it.
that's my fight for 2025.
Yeah. I had said, what about Israel Adesanya versus Yuri at 205? But I'm just like, fuck it. Tell Yuri he gets Robert Whitaker or Israel for one fight at 185, and then he gets a shot at the title. Like,
Yeah.
that's what we got to be doing, man. We got to see what this looks like.
I do. That is fascinating. Holy shit.
Yeah. And then the other thing is we have to shout out your favorite little baby heavyweight for being the only fighter to actually lose weight from official weigh-in to actually the day, for losing 2.8 pounds. Jailton Almeida, baby.
Yeah, buddy.
He just lost a little bit of weight. Just maybe he went light on the avos or something for breakfast, and doing fine.
Yeah,
So pretty crazy.
Jailton Almeida just fucking cheating at heavyweight.
I know. I mean, he could fight at 205 and probably win as well, but
Yeah.
he'd probably need to learn a little bit more wrestling to actually like take these guys down.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. 3 more really fast. Here we go.
Well, all right, you're still talking about 313, right?
Yes, yes. Oh, we forgot 313. I forgot the better fight on 313.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Jeez Louise, a 5-round co-main event between Dan the
Yeah.
Hangman Hooker and Justin Gaethje. What are your initial thoughts when you hear that fight?
I think we texted each other about this, and the only thing I said was like pure violence. Like, holy shit, this is gonna be so good. And like I'm stoked. I'm really excited for this fight. It's gonna be it's just they're just gonna like it's just gonna be a stand-up banger war again, and I can't wait. I think it'll be very reminiscent of Dan Hooker and Dustin Poirier.
That was a good fight. That was a
Yeah,
good fight.
yeah.
Um, yeah, wild. I'm excited for the fight too. I'm a little scared for this fight though. Like, I'm a little nervous that both of these dudes might take a decade off of their life,
Yeah.
and I assume the loser is going to lose so brutally that it's probably going to be the last time we see them fight.
That is what I was thinking as well. Like this might be a retirement fight for one of them.
Mm-hmm. And that makes me sad, but
Yeah.
hopefully, man, hopefully it'll be good. It's weird to say I want to see the fight, but I hope nobody gets hurt. I just hope everyone has fun. You know, I'm like, oh no,
Well, this is one
Justin
of
and Dan are gonna kill each other.
this is one of those few fights that we like both fighters, and like we
Mhm.
want both of them to do well. But I do have to we do have to remind each other too. There are going to be a lot of fights like this in the future for this year, especially in the
Yeah,
lightweight division, because
yeah,
all of these action fighters, like they are getting to that time, that age in their career where one bad loss and that might be it now.
yeah. I mean, I'm okay with them like retiring. I mean, like we saw what happened to Justin Gaethje the last time he fought. We've
Yeah,
seen the hellacious beatings Dan Hooker has taken. But, ooh, yikes. I'm a little nervous. I think this is a hellacious matchup for Dan Hooker. I think Justin Gaethje is kind of like the worst stylistic pairing for him as a striker. So I'm
mm,
more worried about Dan Hooker getting his face absolutely blastigated by an overhand right from Justin Gaethje.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that. But we did say Dan Hooker was one of our most improved fighters for
Mm-hmm.
2024,
That's
so
right.
we'll see. We'll see.
All right.
Uh,
3
also, there's
more
one
really
more.
Oh,
Oh, on this fight, yeah? Or
yeah. No, no,
well,
no. I was moving on.
your boy Josh Van is also fighting at 313.
Oh, shit. I did not see this.
Yeah, it was announced that Josh Van is also fighting Bruno da Silva.
Bruno da Silva. Well, all right. I would have preferred a step into the top 15, but okay.
Yeah,
I'll,
yeah.
I'll take it. Um,
Isn't he? I think he's 13 now. That's what, at least what his ranking says. Here, let me see.
who? Bruno da Silva?
Yeah, he's 13. And
Oh,
Josh Van is
geez.
15, so.
Well, color me surprised. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Love to see it. Let's get Josh Van keep going up, 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 up. Yeah. Besides that, there's not much on this card. um, it looks like for the next like 3 or 4 UFCs, it's pay-per-views. It's just gonna be the main and co-main, right?
Yeah.
Because the 312 coming up in Australia, that's just a card of the main co-main. There's nothing else underneath worth watching. Right. When Justin Taffa in a heavyweight fight is the third slot on the pay-per-view, that's a bad sign. That's a real bad sign.
Oh, come
Yeah.
on. Let's see. Yeah.
Yeah. There's not much. Anyway, all right. So that's 313. 3 other things, rapid fire. Here we go. Chris Weidman finally announces his retirement. Collin,
Yeah.
over under. How many times does he continue to fight in the UFC after announcing his retirement?
Oh, I really hope this was just like I really hope he listened to our podcast and went, "Oh, I got the award. That's what I wanted. I can retire now."
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah,
But no,
that would I yeah.
I really hope this is just like like, you're good. You don't need to do anything. You've been a champion that, please retire into the sunset right now. Because
Yep.
literally, how many times do we need to teach you this lesson, old man?
Yeah, I know, right? Like, and he's been taught it a lot. Uh, I found it a little. It was just like randomly on the broadcast, and they just like cut to him for a second, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm done fighting." There was no like giant package to announce it. There was no like him in the stands crying as they showed like, "Ah, the All American Chris Weidman." It was just a very like, "Oh yeah, I'm done,"
Yeah.
which was kind of like, "Oh, all right," like the guy who dethroned Anderson Silva, and we're just like, "All right, bye." Uh, yeah, UFC kind of dropping the ball on that. I wonder if they'll kind of do what they did with Stipe, where it was whatever the Apex card was, or whatever the like. No, it was like in China on the next card, the Pure
Yeah.
Beyond Divas and Figueiredo, like at 7 a.m. where they ran the package. Maybe they'll do that. Maybe it'll be in Saudi Arabia as Israel Adesanya
Yeah.
is walking out. They'll be like, oh, another middleweight to think of is Chris Weidman. So weird. Favorite Chris Weidman memory?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, favorite. Well, why don't you tell me yours? Let me look up again. Let me try to recap some of my favorite things of his.
Um, is it Mark Munoz fight? The one he fought right before getting the title shot against Anderson Silva, where
Oh,
Mark Munoz is
yeah.
throwing an overhand right and he catches him with an intercepting elbow and like slashes Munoz in the face and drops him.
Yeah.
That was a pretty cool. I was like, I like that technique. I like that Chris Weidman did that, especially for somebody that just was touted routinely as a wrestler. I was like, that's pretty slick. That's pretty slick.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that. I liked it when he lost the fight and his dad was in the cage and he screamed, "He's still my boy," to the booing fans. I thought that was
Yeah.
pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
uh, so, for a long time, I think because we watched the fight together, I think. Either the first or second one with Anderson Silva. Um,
The second one, not the
the
first one.
second one, yeah, the second
Yeah.
one. Yeah, that leg injury, Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And I remember because I was and still am a big Anderson Silva fanboy, so I was very much like not pro Chris Weidman during those fights.
Mm-hmm.
And but then after, when he beat Machida and he beat Vitor Belfort, I kind of was like, okay, maybe he really is the real deal, because like I was in my mind, I know it's not the right thing. I was like, oh, like, again, I don't believe in luck, but like Anderson Silva clowning and that finally got the best of him, and then he snapped his leg in this insane, like throwing this kick and just checking it, So I was like, okay, like he beat Anderson Silva twice, but like I didn't get to see the Anderson Silva that I've grown to love so much,
Mm-hmm.
but then he beat two other legends of the sport in that weight class, and like yes, they were more on the tail end of their career, but he still did it, So that
Mm-hmm.
was when for me, I was kind of like, okay, like maybe this guy really is for real. Maybe he is the real deal here. And I was. And then he went on a three fight TKO losing streak, and I felt really bad about that afterwards. So, but
Yeah, he never got back-to-back wins after losing the title.
no,
Um, he was at one point 13-0. Like he was,
yeah,
besides John Jones, he was like the other like real blue chip prospect in MMA. He
yeah,
was the guy that everyone was looking at and was like, that's a future champion. And he was, and he defended it 3 times, which is hard at middleweight.
yeah,
Uh, but then when the wheels came off hard, man.
yeah, yeah, real hard.
And I felt bad for him because like a lot of his losses, he's winning up until the point that he loses. Like he was winning into the third round against Yoel Romero until Yoel Romero blasted off into space with a flying knee. And it was like, wow, didn't see that shit coming. He was beating Jacare Souza up until Jacare landed a good punch and knocked him out.
Yeah,
Um, like it was always kind of weird watching these losses because he was winning until he wasn't. Same with like Gegard Mousasi. Oh, he did beat Kevin Gastelum. Yeah, beat Souza. I guess it was like after the Ronaldo Souza fight, he never really was like winning clearly again. He got
yeah,
demolished by Dominic Reyes. He beat somebody named Omari Akhmedov. Oh, okay. Yeah, and then Uriah Hall, Brad Tavares, Aaron
Yeah.
Sanders, Bruno Silva, blah blah blah. Yeah. But yeah, one of the you put him in a top 5 middleweights, best middleweights of all time, top 3, top 2.
Oh. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I can put him in the top 5.
What? Who else is going in that top 5? You got Anderson. We've got Israel Adesanya. That's what we know.
Yeah. You've
Who else is?
got
What are the 3 other people beating him out?
Robert Whitaker.
Yeah.
Do I consider Leo Machida a middleweight? No, I consider him more a light heavyweight.
I mean, he does have a resume at middleweight, right?
Yeah, but like
I think
not
more of his
really.
fights in his career have been at middleweight than light heavy.
But that was at like the tail end, right?
No, you're just being like, well, I just want to put him over here. Leo Machida was a middleweight, I think, for a very long time.
All right,
Let's see.
hold on. Let me look at this because he middleweight debut. He fought Mark Munoz. Okay, Gegard Mousasi, man. Oh, maybe. Oh,
He had 11 middleweight fights. He at least has a resume at middleweight, man. Like, and most
okay.
of that is in the UFC.
Yeah. Okay.
But
All right.
you put Lyoto Machida above Chris Weidman, even though Chris Weidman demolished him.
I mean, because we're looking at the whole body of work, right? But
Well, at
most okay,
middleweight,
I would say most of his impressive wins were at light heavyweight as well. So yeah, I mean, it just says it right there. Most of my memory of him is from light heavyweight, not middleweight. So okay, so we've got Anderson Silva,
Izzy and
Izzy,
Robert.
Robert.
Mm-hmm.
Dare I say DDP?
Now, see, that's interesting. Is DDP already in the discussion of top 5 best middleweights of all time?
Dude, the fact that I mean, just like the argument you just said, the fact that he, you know, he finished both Izzy and Robert, you know,
Yeah.
he's beaten the other current middleweight or recent middleweight champion in Sean Strickland. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if he beats Strickland again and he like knocks him out or submits him, as much as I don't want to admit it, you might have to admit it. Like,
Yeah.
he might be the real deal.
All right. So if we put him at number 4, who's taking that 5th spot, if not Chris Weidman?
Yeah, you make a good point.
Yeah, Chris
You make a
Weidman's
good
at
point.
least top 5. I put him ahead of DDP at the moment, but DDP, man, if he beats Sean Strickland and then Hamzat afterwards, woo, or Yuri, woo, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, okay. Well, let me ask you. What about like Luke Rockhold?
What about Luke Rockhold?
He's pretty good too.
Yeah. Yeah, he was very good. I don't think he has a signature win. He did beat Chris Weidman, right? So that is if you want to kind of play around with, hey, he beat Chris Weidman, but Chris Weidman, I think, has just a more impressive list of names on his resume, right? Than Luke Rockhold, because Luke Rockhold's got Chris Weidman. He's got Lyoto Machida as well. He had beat Michael Bisping, but then was knocked out by Michael Bisping.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, both of these guys really, like Chris Weidman and Luke Rockhold, that was kind of the zenith of their power, was that fight. Because then afterwards, he immediately loses to Michael Bisping. He does beat David Branch, but then gets demolished by Yo Romero, Jan Blachowicz, and Paulo Costa. And then got his teeth knocked out by Mike Perry in bare knuckle. Like,
oh, Jesus.
His career just kind of ended after that.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that like Chris Weidman was able to sustain, we see especially now like how hard it is to get 3 title defenses. And his title defenses were against Anderson Silva, right, coming back, and Lyoto Machida when Lyoto Machida was really like the hot cool middleweight, and then Vitor Belfort coming off being TRT Vitor. Like that's a pretty good. That's a pretty good run. So yeah, and then there's a huge drop off after that. But anyway, yeah, I'd put him top 4. I don't think he beats out Rob, Izzy, or Anderson. But yeah,
I do have him floating in that like 5th-ish spot with people like, like Luke Rockhold and I don't consider GSP a
No.
middleweight.
Well, he only had one fight at middleweight, so, like, he
Yeah,
wasn't,
but, like, I'd put him maybe I'd put him above Michael Bisping as well, but
yeah.
I forgot there is one name here that, that you gotta put respect on him as well. Fucking Jim Carrey looking Rich Franklin. Like,
Who did Rich Franklin fight, though?
yeah, but okay, remember the sport was like wild back then, And
Sure, but
this was back in the day where Rich Franklin was like, I can't be like a full-time fighter because this is not a real job. So I'm also gonna teach like math in high school. Like or whatever the fuck he did.
yeah, but he was fighting around the same time that, like, Matt Hughes was dominating and Chuck Liddell was dominating and, like, Randy Couture and Tito Ortiz. Light heavyweight, if you were the king of light heavyweight,
Oh, this is
you had to.
middleweight, baby.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is light heavyweight had names and had people with, like, pedigree and skill. Matt Hughes had to beat Frank Trigg and GSP and Sean Shirk, like, people that were very good fighters. Rich Franklin had to beat, let's see here, a washed-up Ken Shamrock, Evan Tanner, Nate Quarry coming off of the TUF house and getting one win in the UFC, and then David Loazo, who I think only had 2 or 3 wins in the UFC before getting a title shot. So, like, yeah, I'm not. No, I'm not. No. Yeah, I'm not doing. No. No. Yeah, 2 or 3 wins in the UFC, and it was that David Loazo got the fight against Rich Franklin. It was Gideon Ray, Charles Chainsaw McCarthy, and Evan Tanner. Like, these are not. No. It's just it's like, sorry. It's kind of like if you're the heavyweight champion now, I just can't put you in a discussion of like, wow, you were really good, right? Because I'm like, there's just not anyone else at heavyweight for you to fight. Sorry. So no respect on Rich Franklin's name. Also, he's like, he's not a flat earther, but he's a huge. The Earth is 4,000 years old. Everyone should learn about Noah's Ark in history class. Weirdo. So fuck that guy.
Oh, he definitely wasn't a fucking history teacher then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. You gotta be like, what kind of history teacher was he? Right? Like, maybe he sucked ass. And so that's why he became a fighter. Anyway, Chris Weidman, top 5 middleweight. Sorry to see him go.
Yeah.
Worst memory is definitely the cosmic irony of him breaking Anderson's leg
And then him breaking his leg. Yeah, Jesus.
Horrible. Horrifying and horrible.
Yeah.
All right, 2 more things. DC and Chael announces the new coaches for TUF. Do you give a shit at all?
I mean, I haven't watched a TUF season in like probably now close to 12 years. So like
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah. I mean, they are entertaining. So if I ended up watching it, what, you don't like DC? I love DC.
DC and Chael are entertaining. I thought you meant TUF.
Oh, yeah, no. They individuals are entertaining, and like when I think back about to some of the seasons, I think about some like what the coaches did, not necessarily. I think very occasionally of some of the fighters that came out of that, like Nate Diaz when he was in the lightweight season, but like there's not many fighters that I can say that came from the TUF season that really stand out to my mind. In my mind, I think about the coaches. I think about when GSP was a coach, and like he was playing mind games with the picks of against Koscheck, and he like brought in one of his like coaches who was like that one French guy who was always drunk, and that guy just beat the shit out of all of his fighters, Yeah, I think about that. So,
yep, it's weird that like both of them are retired and in different weight classes, so there's no like, oh, then there's a fight at the end. It's just like it's just them there. I also am like, why do we need TUF? We don't need this show anymore. Like,
no, we don't.
Get rid of it. We already have Apex cards. We already have Dana White's Contender Series. We already have Power Slap. We don't need TUF. Right?
I really thought they were shifting into the direction that, okay, Dana White's Contender Series would be like the new TUF. Like,
I mean, it kind of is. You're fighting for a contract, right?
Yeah. We just don't have like the quote unquote drama or like 30 minutes of watching them fucking like get drunk at a house together. Like,
yeah. I know, and it's like, especially with like, I don't know, you can go on YouTube and watch crazier shit. Like, this isn't
Yeah,
2006 anymore where you need it to be on a cable station and like, anyway, I couldn't give less of a shit. So,
yeah.
yeah, and then the first inductee in the 2025 class Hall of Fame for the UFC was announced, and it turned out
Oh,
to be drumroll a TV producer. A guy who was the producer on Tough One was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. Collin, are
which
we
wing was he inducted into?
the contributors wing?
Okay.
Are we inducting TV execs into a sports Hall of Fame? Is that what's going on now?
Well, that's why I asked, like, which wing? Like the contributor, I think also like sports apparel people have been inducted into it. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just kind of like acknowledging people who have contributed to the UFC's rise, like on the fringes though, like promoted this or like had a big hand in like making this like sponsorship deal or whatever, like
Mm-hmm.
it's just kind of whatever. It's a nice gesture. And that's what we
Yeah.
kind of concluded the last time, we talked about the Hall of Fame. Like there wasn't a lot of prestige in it by itself, but it was something that I guess the UFC does, and the individuals who are inducted or who are within the organization or in the industry, for them it's very important, or for them it's special. So it's like, okay, if it's important to you, sure, like here's your award.
Now that doesn't answer the question of why they had a pre-prepared video package and took time out of the broadcast to make us, the consuming audience, watch this video package and try to get hype for a TV producer to go into the UFC Hall of Fame.
No, so again, I didn't see that because my stream
Mm,
was cutting in and out and my internet was
mm,
crap. But I mean, if you think about the historical significance of Tough One, that was really the thing that saved the UFC, especially when it
yeah,
culminated into that last fight between Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner. So
mm, that's true.
you could say
Wanna
that.
During this video package, though, Colin,
Mm,
this TV producer was saying that Dana White's "Are You a Fucking Fighter" speech was the greatest speech ever given in reality TV history, and then began to tear up at the thought of how good that speech was. Do you remember the context around that? Do you want to be a fucking fighter speeches?
no, I don't.
On Tough One, the fighters, unaware that they weren't being paid for the fights during the filming of the show, learned it in the house when the first fights were taking place, and they were told, "Oh no, you're just fighting for the TV show, and then you get the chance to get paid if you win."
That's right. And some of them were like, oh, maybe I won't have to fight until the end.
Yes. So a little seems like the fighters weren't really kept in the loop. Seems like this TV exec really kind of bamboozled a couple of these guys. And then they became a little, well, hey, what if we all just agreed not to fight so that we kind of strong arm the TV producers? Otherwise, they won't have a show. So then Dana White came in and said, you guys want money? Don't you want to be a fucking fighter? Real fighters don't need money. And that was the context of that amazing speech that made that TV exec cry. Slimeball Dana White coming in. All right.
Yeah.
Well, with all of that information, though, we have to play the next round of Collin's Crystal Balls.
Oh,
So,
already. All right. All
already,
right.
5 questions. Here it goes. Knowing that we can
Jesus.
put TV execs in, how long until Donald Trump is inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame as a contributor?
Oh my God. Stu. No. This is one of those where ignorance is bliss. If that was never, ever, ever in my vision now. And now I cannot unsee that.
Mm-hmm.
You fucker. You dirty, dirty fucker.
I mean,
Why would you do this to me?
we found that
I
a
was
skeevy TV executive could get in a contributor's role.
I
What's to say that Donald Trump can't get in?
I want to play this out for everyone. Whoever's listening to this, whether it's
Mhm.
now or in the future or whatever,
Mhm.
maybe in the apocalypse, someone finds some random, you know, historical hard drive and they plug it in and this is what they hear and they get a flashback to the times before the apocalypse. I want them to know that we lived in a day where I didn't see this segment and I was happy. I wasn't happy. I
Yeah.
was happier than I am now. I didn't know this
Mhm.
existed. And even after Stu told me this existed, I was like, okay, sure, whatever. I don't
Mhm.
really care that much. And
Mhm.
then Stu, in all of his great wisdom, says, let me fuck up Colin's day right now
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
say
Mhm.
and propose this hypothetical. And now I will not be able to ever unthink this. You
Right.
asshole.
Yeah. But you still haven't answered. How long until that happens?
God, I really, really want to say never. I really want to say never. But with the way everything is going, I could definitely see it happening at the end of Donald Trump's term. So in like 4 to 5 years. But God, I hate you.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, you should really hate the UFC's Hall of Fame and Donald Trump, but you can hate me, I guess. That's all right.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Um,
I'm taking a shotgun approach on this here.
who will be the first fighter inducted into the 2025 Hall of Fame?
Ooh, good question. Are there any nominees listed yet or no?
No, no, no. There's no nominees. We just get to learn about it later.
Jeez. Okay. Let me think. I don't know. Ask her those while I got to see who's actually. Oh, this guy. He's already in. So let me look this up. Hold
All right. Lame. Um, next, knowing that tough is such a big deal, at what point are they going to bring back, or maybe they've already done this? At what point are they going to do like old man tough, where they bring in fighters over
on.
the age of 40 um, for a tough season?
like this is your last chance to get into the UFC,
Mm-hmm.
or is
Mm-hmm. Or like we're about to cut you
that's
because you're old, and like, but
that's fucking hilarious.
Mhm. And that's
Uh,
basically what the GFL is, right? Like they're getting Tyron Woodley and Wanderlei Silva to fight. It's basically old man tough.
that I don't know, man. The hope
Okay.
never. They never will.
Okay.
That's my hope.
How many more seasons of tough will there be?
Oh, I say 0.
You think this is the final season of tough?
Well, who else are they gonna get to coach it?
Bro, anyone at any moment at any time. But I'll let it stand. Colin's peering into his crystal balls and this is what he sees.
All right, and I got my pick. I got my pick
Okay.
for the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be Lyoto Machida.
Ooh, okay. I think you're probably wrong. Because he went to Bellator or PFL and they were
Yeah,
really upset about that. But you never know. Could be him.
yeah. Who
Lyoto
else? Who
Machida.
else? I don't know who else would fit any
Chris
of these.
Weidman's not in the Hall of Fame yet, so why not Chris Weidman?
That's fair.
Yeah. All right, two more questions. Peer into those crystal balls, and I need quick, fast answers because I got to get
All
out
right.
of here
Yeah, yeah,
fast.
yeah.
The UFC Hall of Fame inducts people into the contributor wing. How long until Dana White gets into the Hall of Fame, and will he be president of the UFC when that happens?
I could definitely see him being president while he's inducted. I could definitely see it within the next few years, especially now that Dana White is getting involved in so many other ventures, especially like with Meta and Donald Trump's administration. So if he were to take not like a backseat, but like a semi-reduced role, I could definitely
Mhm.
see him being inducted then.
Okay. So, but he'll probably be president or still working. He won't be like fully retired
Yeah,
from the
I don't
president
I
of the
don't
Hall
see
of
Dana
Fame.
White ever really relinquishing his control over the UFC.
Got it. Got it. Makes sense. Will Francis Ngannou ever make it into the UFC Hall of Fame?
Oh, not while Dana White is there. Unless they have some sort of reconciliation, he comes back.
Okay. Great. Well, this has been a segment of Colin's crystal balls. I got to get out of here. I have like a
Yeah.
job This has been Two Fight Fans Podcast. I'm one Fight Fan Stuart.
I'm the other Collin.
Join us next week. We'll preview all the big fights that are coming up in February. February is stacked.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this Saudi Arabia Riyadh card that's coming up,
Oh,
which has some
yeah.
cool fights on it. And that's about it. All right, everybody. Bye.
Bye.